Shalom. One of the truths that have been hammered into our skulls from a very, very early age is things of value will not come to you without effort. Yeah, we still harbor the dream of all you need is $1 and a dream, you might win the lotto, but that's benign. We don't really expect to become that wealthy without any effort. The harsh reality is that when people put in effort and work hard, they have a much better success rate. And I don't only mean in terms of finances, I mean being a good husband, a good wife, a good child, a good employee, a good employer. The more effort, concentration, dedication you put into this, the more successful you will be. It also is a spiritual truth. The sages tell us, Yogati velo matzasi al tamin. I have put in much effort, but I haven't accomplished. I haven't found anything. No, do not believe that statement. On the other hand, if a person says, Matzasi, I accomplished, but velo yagaiti, I didn't really put in any effort. It was easy. Also don't believe. Rather know the truth. Yogaiti umatzasa, when you toil and you will be successful, you will find tamin, you could believe such a person. Because often hard work and effort does pay off. And yet, with all of this truth, all of us sometimes want to get something for nothing. And for those people, the following story is very appropriate. The story goes that there was a king who built a magnificent palace and left a very large room completely bare, empty, and unadorned. He then called for the most famous artisans and artists and said, I have a room that has 4 walls. Each one of you will be permitted to paint the wall or to do something to the wall that will bring beauty. Of course, I will pay very handsomely for your effort. So the first thing that they did was that they put up bunting and scaffolding on each of the 4 walls, so to make sure that the person that's working on his wall will not be distracted by the people working on another wall, and also to make sure that no one steals from the other. So these 4 wonderful artists come. One of them comes with a whole crew, a second one comes with his crew, the third one comes with his crew, and the 4th one didn't come with much of a crew at all. Brought in one person, seemed to go in and out, and didn't seem to actually putting that much effort. But of course no one could know what is he doing behind the drapes. On the other hand, the 3 were working feverishly, because after all, the deadline of the 10 days was coming up. The 10 days were finished. The king came with an entourage. The royal treasure held 4 large sacks of gold, and the 4 artists were entered together with the king. With great fanfare, the first artist says, let's take down the bunting and remove the drape. And as they remove the drape, the people begin to gaze and gasp. The most beautiful picture appeared in front of them. It was a rainforest. But looking at this wall, you didn't get a sense of looking at a picture. You somehow felt you were in a forest. It was so realistic that the people just gasped. And afterwards, spontaneously, they all applauded, and the king congratulated him. Magnificent! And put down a large sack of gold in front of the wall. He then said to the second artist, we're ready to see yours. They open up the drape, and the people for a moment are transfixed. It's a seashore. But it's not a seashore at all. You somehow feel that you're next to the water. and the wave is about to engulf you. For a moment there's silence, and once again spontaneous applause. Magnificent, beautiful, wondrous, realistic. And the second artist bows his head modestly. The king congratulates him and puts down a bag of gold in front of his wall. They come to the third wall. It's repeated. The drapes are removed. And for a moment, it's silent. Because what they're looking at is a picture of outer space. But it's not like they're looking at outer space from Earth. It's as if they're in outer space. The vastness, the galaxies, the sparkling stars, the wonder of outer space. You somehow was being conveyed to the people in this room. And once again, loud applause. Congratulations. Awe-inspiring is what they say. And the king puts down another bag. And now they look at the fourth artist. And each one is wondering, what could he possibly do that could rival any one of those three? The woods, the ocean, the sky. What would he do? And they remove the drapery. And for a moment, people can't figure out what it is. At first glance, it's actually blank. It was painted with some type of a reflective paint. And then the oohs and the ahs started. Because depending on the angle you looked, what you actually saw was a picture of the other wall. So if you looked at it from one angle, it seemed like you were looking at an ocean. From a different angle, it seemed you were in the woods. If you looked slightly upwards, it looked as if you were in outer space. And the three artists were both overawed and terribly hurt that he was trying to win an award from their hard work. But one could not deny, on this one wall, one could see three. Well, the applause started, and the king congratulated the artist, who modestly accepted it. And then the king started to depart. Well, the artist stopped for a moment, and in the most delicate way possible, he asked the king, "Your Majesty, such a work of art, does it not deserve a reward?" And His Majesty looked at the artist and said, "Quite so, quite so. Look at the wall. You will see 3 bags of gold." And in that way, the king taught the artist a lesson. You cannot get something for nothing. Sure, you could reflect beauty, but did you make yourself an object of beauty? So for those of us that are still dreaming about wealth and fame, keep on dreaming. As long as it's a dream and you go out and work every day in being the best human being you could be and the best Jew you could be, you're entitled to a dream. But if you actually think that all of the great wonders of the world and all of the great wisdom of the world be given to you, you're wrong. And yet, there's a caveat. You see, when we look at the Jewish people, we have to see ourselves as not only a generation today in 5772, which will receive the Torah again, but in a certain way, we have to see ourselves as a people that are reflecting 3,000 years of Jewish history, 3,300 years of Torah study. It's not only the fourth wall which we are painting, but I and you also reflect our grandparents and our grandparents' grandparents and the great commentators of the Bible and the learned scholars of the Talmud, all the way to the prophets of Israel, including the great teacher Moshe. Because in every generation, when we identify with the study of Torah, we identify with the giver of the Torah. We identify with the Torah which transcends past and present. We then understand that all of what was accomplished is being reflected on us and through us, and we ourselves are adding. There has never been a more opportune time than to rededicate ourselves to Torah and mitzvahs. And there has never been a more worthy generation, because though we might be pygmies, but we reflect the strength of giants. Let's hope and pray that the Mashiach come to this very worthy generation, and we will give pride to our parents and grandparents all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Amen.
Shema Yisrael.